Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive and welcome back to the top 10, the top 50 of all time. This segment, we're doing the top 10. We're finally at the finality of this 5-part series. So before we jump into the top 10, I wanted to run something by you guys, and that is a possible future of the Dungeon Dive. I am working towards making the Dungeon Dive full-time, or more full-time than it is now. I have kind of switched around my schedule. I am working now 3 days a week at a part-time job, and I'm going to focus 3 days a week on the Dungeon Dive and have 1 day off per week. I really want to ride this kind of momentum that's happening right now and really push to make this a full-time gig, or as full-time as it possibly can be. Over and over again on the videos, I hear people say, when are you going to cover this game? Are you going to cover this game? Can you do a playthrough of this? Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you spend more time doing this, more time doing that? And all of that comes down to the fact that I would love to, but it takes time. And when you have to pay your bills and you have to pay your health care, time literally is money. And so that's what it's going to take. It's going to take me generating revenue. So I have devised a business plan and I'm going to move forward with it. And I just wanted to run some things by you guys and of how I'm going to work to make that happen. I have recently monetized the YouTube channel. I have started the podcast, which I'm going to be hosting on like Anchor or something. And the podcast, a weekly podcast, is going to have ads. So I'm going to have some ads helping to generate revenue. I am going to work with some people to design some merch. So some like Dungeon Dive t-shirts and stuff. So we can make a little bit of money doing that. I am also going to spend time writing modules for like solo RPGs for things like Mork Borg or Scarlet Heroes and selling those on DriveThruRPG. I'm going to get back into making music, and I want to make like one dungeon synth album a year and to sell that to generate some revenue. But the main way I would like to generate revenue is through the Patreon or through a crowdfunding campaign. I really want to have like 1,000 dedicated fans who are willing to pay me $5 a month, and we could easily make that happen. And to me, that doesn't feel like it's too far out of the realms of possibility. I mean, $5 a month, that's less than like a single coffee from a fancy coffee place or less than a fast food meal. I think I can make that happen. We're going to be approaching, probably in a couple months, if things keep riding this trajectory, will be around 10,000 subscribers, I think. And with either the Patreon or a crowdfunding campaign, I want to offer up. So at higher tiers, like the modules I make, those will be given away for free, or maybe the Dungeon Synth album will be given away for free. On the Patreon, I've recently added a $1, a low tier for $1 a month, and a high tier at $25 a month. With a crowdfunding campaign, I'm thinking of having a couple kind of high tier rewards where people can sponsor a video, where they can choose the topic of a video, be it like a book, a movie, or a game. Maybe they at a higher tier, they can sponsor a whole week's worth, like 5 videos, or they can sponsor an episode of the podcast, things like that. What I want to offer with the rewards and with with what people are paying is just more of what I'm doing now and better, better equipment, some better lighting, a couple better cameras, stuff like that. So if you value what I do and you can financially support me to make this a full-time job, that would be fantastic. And I think we can make it happen. So the things also, I want to have like a Discord server for people. And eventually in like 2 years, in 2024 or something, I'd like to start having a small Dungeon Dive convention, DiveCon 24 or something. I think that would be really, really fun. I'm lining up some interviews with people for the podcast, and I'm really excited about that. So if you guys haven't listened to the podcast, it's up on YouTube right now, and soon it'll be available on like iTunes and and Spotify and stuff like that. So, all right, well, let's get into the final episode of the top 10 here, and the top 50. We're doing the top 10 in the top 50. And today we're going to go from number 10 to number 1. So let's kick things off with number 10. And that is from 1985. That is from Games Workshop designers Jacob Bonds and Dan Glimney. And that is Dungeon Quest. So Dungeon Quest really is it's kind of like the purest dungeon crawl. It is a boiled reduction of all of the elements that we love in these games. It is just it's all boiled down to its basic elements of going into a dungeon, fighting monsters, getting loot, and getting out. And it is a press your luck game. And that element adds a sense of tension, a sense of danger that really is missing from so many of the games we play. So many of these games, they need that tension, but they lack it often. And by adding this pressure luck element, by adding this high sense of danger, and by making the games quick, the game just automatically feels dangerous, and it adds that tension and it adds that fun to it. It is very possible in this game to die on your very first turn due to no choice of your own, just pure bad luck. And so that can turn people off, but I've never really seen it. Every time it's happened, it's been just something funny that has happened. We've moved on. We beat the game in like 30 or so minutes, and then we start a new one. So I don't mind the luck. The combat is not great at all. So those two things are kind of like the negatives. But for me, the fun far outweighs those couple of negatives. And I always have fun playing Dungeon Quest. So that was number 10. All right, and then number 9, keeping on the Games Workshop train here, we have from 1983, and that is Talisman 2nd Edition. Designers Robert Harris, Ian Livingston, Albie Fiore, and Gary Chalk. I like all the versions of Talisman, but the 2nd edition is my favorite, and that does have a lot to do with nostalgia. I'm not going to lie. Talisman is not a great game, but it is a very nostalgic one for me. It was one of the first hobby games I got into. I love 2nd edition because I love all of the Gary Chalk art, and I just love that era of Games Workshop art. It's very appealing to me. I find it pleasant to look at. I like being in that world of Talisman. I like the expansions, like the city and the dungeon and Timescape. I love all the characters. They feel so different. But I also only play with like my house rules. And you can find those house rules in my video series on Talisman. But it's a very easy game to add rules. So if you like rules from other editions, you can easily add those rules to the edition that you have, that you play. You can easily make up house rules. And it's just, it's a simple and fun adventure game. And it often is a game that I think people play wrong. And I usually hate that term, but it is true with Talisman, because at its core, Talisman is a race game and it is a press your luck game. Talisman really shouldn't go on for 3 or 4 hours, because you should be trying to move into the center as fast as you possibly can to win. If you're playing the game competitively, it is a race game. And you want to push your luck. You want to press your luck to get into those center realms a lot faster than the other players. But I don't mind it fast. I don't mind it slow. But some people do complain that it is quite a long game for what it offers, for all of the luck. But for me, I even like to play it solo and just have this kind of like slow questing adventure. So that was number 9 with Talisman. And I finally learned not to toss my pages on the floor from page to page. It only took me 5 videos to, so I don't have to stoop down to pick those up. All right, so let's go on to number 8. And number 8, we are entering into the realms of the Weird West. And that is with Shadows of Brimstone from 2014, Flying Frog Productions, designer Jason C. Hill. Shadows of Brimstone really is like the most game. It has so much stuff, so many options, so many expansions, tons of characters, loots, abilities, monsters, tons of different settings, events, chits, rules. That is the double-edged sword of the game, because it is a game that I think needs a certain amount of variety to really shine. And so each player, each owner of the game is going to have to determine that perfect point of having enough to make the game fun, but also not having too much to make the game an overwhelming experience to store and to set up and to get to the table to play. Shadows of Brimstone is a Warhammer Quest derivative that really does get everything right. So many of these games are constantly chasing Warhammer Quest's tail, and so many of them fail to grab onto it and to really latch on to what makes Warhammer Quest such a great game. But Shadows of Brimstone does that, and it does it expertly. I love the Weird West theme. I like the Forbidden Fortress theme. I like all the art. I like all the different settings and the various expansions. I love that genre mishmash, that genre busting. Those genre busting elements really, really speak to me. But like a lot, like it can have too much stuff, and it can be really, really hard to organize, and so that can be a negative to some people. But Shadows of Brimstone is a number 8. Number 7. Number 7 might be the closest thing to a party game on this list. And it is also a game that I might claim is a perfect game. And that is Escape the Dark Castle from 2017, Themeborn Limited, designers Alex Crispin, Thomas Pike, and James Shelton. This game is dead simple, and it is always fun. I have never not had fun playing Escape the Dark Castle. It is a party game, and that's how I enjoy it. I don't like playing this game solo. I don't think it offers the fun when I play solo. I like to play this game at the end of a night of playing when everybody has had some drinks and everybody's a little tired of something heavier, and so we can jump into this dead simple game where you are facing off against a certain number, like 15 encounters, trying to escape from this prison. Making the right choices due to the choices you are presented, fighting monsters, trying to get that precious loot in order to survive. It's always, always fun. And the art is just to die for. That stark, bold, black and white look. It looks great on a table, especially if you have like a black tablecloth and the lights are kind of dim. It has a very, that contrasting look is just pops off the table. And the simplicity and the high luck factor I see could push people off. But if you treat it as a party game, I don't really think that would happen. I know that death comes quick and easy in this game, and it's super easy to just set up and play another game. And we usually almost always play more than one game. So that was number 7, Escape the Dark Castle. Number 6. This game skyrocketed onto my top 10, really. It went from a game that I did not really care about at all. I was really sour on. I made a whole video about it, and now I absolutely love it. And the version I picked might surprise some of you, and that is Hexplorit. And that is the Valley of the Dead King, the first one, the most simple one because of its ease of access. And that is from 2017, designers Kat Kimandri, Nathan Luz, and Jonathan Mariucci. Over the time I've spent with the games, I have enjoyed the Valley of the Dead King more and more because it has the fewest rules. I'm looking forward to this new one coming out because according to a chart that the designers made, they have pulled back some of the rules and made the new one a little more simple, like this other one, like this first one here. The Sands of Shirax was way too many rules, way too complex for me to have fun with. But I love Valley of the Dead King. It really does feel like I am playing in this vast world of fantasy adventure. It's perfect for slow questing, for just keeping the game set up for a week and returning to it when you have free time to take a turn or two. There are so many options, so much variety, especially. And what I like is how each game they release the base game, they release one box expansion, and then like one small expansion. And so it's very easy to have everything. It doesn't take up a ton of shelf space. It takes up a lot of table space, but you don't need to be constantly juggling with things in and out of the box. Once you get everything set up, that's really all you need to play. It is kind of like the ultimate overland hex crawl. I absolutely love the game. The combat can be a negative. The combat is quite bizarre. It's very mathy. You're doing like math equations. The combat is kind of predetermined. You should know if you're going to win going into combat. And so the combat I can see maybe kind of pushing some people away. But if you're looking for a good hex crawl in a board game form that doesn't need the work of an RPG, Hexplore is that game. Okay, so number 5, another newer game, and that is from 2019, designer Juraj Bilek, and that is Machina Arcana. And this is 2nd edition, and then 3rd edition's coming out. So I do think that the main negative about this game is that we're already in a few years on a 3rd edition, which is a little weird. Hopefully this is the edition to get everything right. It can be a difficult game to learn, but it is worth the effort. The new 3rd edition is going to have a how to play guide that should ease us into the game a little more, into its different kind of terminology. And it's also coming with some new expansions from friend of the channel, Andy Lennon. Really looking forward to reading his stuff in the game because he is a fantastic and evocative thematic writer. But Machina Arcana is simply overflowing with theme and atmosphere. The art, the tiles, oh god, the dungeon tiles look amazing. I love combining them into different types of dungeons. All of the enemy creatures, every enemy card is different. There's a ton of great art in the game, a ton of loot. The amount of builds that you can create with your characters is very high. Tons of monsters and loot, and just so many choices. The game is both thinky and adventurous, and you do need to plan things out. You can't just rush in. You have to know when to engage in battle, when to pull off. You have to know when to use the certain elements on the tiles, when to set traps, when to trigger traps. There's a lot of choices, a lot of good decision points, and a lot of good adventure in Machina Arcana, and that was number 5. And now number 4. Number 4, is this the newest game? Yes, this is the newest game on the list. And no surprise, probably from 2021, Red Raven Games, designer Ryan Lockett, and that is Sleeping Gods. Sleeping Gods, I could see this moving up to my number 1 at some point. It is a brilliant game. It is a masterpiece of a game. It is a perfect adventure game. It has a perfect balance of reading from an adventure book, but still also spending more time playing the game. You're not spending just an abundance of time reading stories. The stories are small, the paragraphs are small, and they're very, very well written. Yeah, it gets that balance right. A lot of times these narrative games that have you looking in a book, you end up spending more time in the book and less time on the game, and I don't like that. The world you explore is full of interesting things to discover, interesting things to do, challenges to overcome. The gameplay is rather simple and I think pretty innovative, especially the combat, how it has this almost like kind of, not dexterity, but spatial puzzling aspect to the combat. It's very weird, but it's very good, and it's very deadly. The campaign is short enough and interesting enough that you will, 1, finish it, and 2, want to do it again. I finished my first campaign and I immediately started in another one to push further into the world, and you need to play the game multiple times to get through the entire game. The negative mainly is just like the big box expansion is really hard to get, and I want it. That's really the only negative I can think about Sleeping Gods. Such a beautiful game. Just opening up that box, all of the components are beautiful. It comes with the universal head summary, rule summary right out of the box. Just it's a fantastic game. So number three coming from 2016, another Games Workshop game. Games Workshop haters will hate this list. And that is designer James M. Hewitt. The second game from James M. Hewitt on the list. First up was Hellboy there, and that is Warhammer Quest Silver Tower. So many of these games I like because they are expansive and offer a ton of variety. Silver Tower is the antithesis to this. This game is very simple, it has a very narrow focus and very narrow vision, and that is precisely why it is so good. From the moment you begin playing, the end is in sight because you know exactly what you need to do. You need to go through 8 missions, get these amulet fragments, and then deal with the final boss. It's a limited experience, but because of that focus, it's able to, 1, maintain a sense of momentum, and 2, not overstay its welcome. The main drawback is the enemy variety. It needs a little bit more enemy variety, so I always combine some of the enemies from Shadows over Hammerhall, or some of the enemy cards from the Chaos Pack. So I like to just add a few enemies as I'm progressing through the game to keep that variety high. But it is a game that it doesn't necessarily need a lot of variety because of its narrow focus and because of how fast the game and the campaign is. So that was a Warhammer Quest Silver Tower. Just, I love that game so much. And the top 2 here, no surprises. Number 2, again, coming from Games Workshop, designer Andy Jones, 1995's Warhammer Quest. This was my first deep dive series. I wish I could do it over. I think I could do it better now. I might revisit it at some point. I was still very green as far as YouTube goes. My lighting wasn't as good. My camera wasn't as good. Yeah, Warhammer Quest. What more can be said for Warhammer Quest? This is the game that so many games are still chasing after, the game that has set the standards. Most of the games that we play who are chasing after Warhammer Quest, they never really get close to capturing what is so special about this game. And why is that? This game has it all. It has meaningful exploration. It has good characters with different abilities. Combat and non-combat encounters, a huge bestiary with a ton of creatures in the book right out of the box. All the creatures have different powers and abilities. There are travel events. There are settlement events. It's this huge, giant toolbox that offers the players the ability to create a nearly endless number of adventures and quests. The stories that we create while playing Warhammer Quest, with only 1 or 2 tiny paragraphs of text in an intro and outro, are always infinitely better than anything pre-written, any pre-written campaign with a narrative, because they are our stories, they are our characters, and we are developing them while developing the game that is surrounding them, while creating the quests. So many memorable moments with only a few words. We don't need thousands of words and hundreds of pages of pre-scripted narrative in a game like Madara to create these memorable moments. We just need the bare essentials. Warhammer Quest, we are playing our story. We are writing the story, and that's why it is so good. In so many modern dungeon crawls, it's like we're playing the story already written by characters, and we're just kind of experiencing what they are going through. But that is not the case with Warhammer Quest. Also, the years of fan content, all of the incredible stuff made by Little Monk, who has extended the life of this game for decades now. And his stuff is totally pro level. There is so much to this game now, and it is absolutely one of the best. Of course, the main downside, it's completely out of print and super expensive. However, you can alleviate that by making your own version with files that are online. And I recommend doing that rather than buying it. So that was Warhammer Quest. Now we are to my number 1. Everybody basically guessed it already, and that's 2015 from Everything Epic Games, and that is Secrets of the Lost Tomb. Designers Christopher Batarlis and Jim Sammartino. Still the most fun I've ever had in a game. This game scratches every itch I could ever want scratched from a board game. It's a totally glorious mess of a game. It's not an attractive game at all. It's kind of ugly, actually. It's garish and gaudy. The colors are weird, all kinds of gold and green and stuff. The art isn't great, but that doesn't matter. It's pulpy and it reflects that. I often compare this to one of the many Hong Kong action movies from the 90s that I love. They're full of flaws and some poor production qualities, but they absolutely shine in verve and style and in character, and that perfectly represents Secrets of the Lost Tomb. This game, it's audacious and wild. From one game to the next, you never really know what is going to happen, even if you're playing the same scenario multiple times, because there are so many random elements that can just throw these monkey wrenches into the system. There are so many cards, so many enemies, so many different things to find, different kinds of encounters to have, different traps to overcome. And all of the expansions just add more and more cards to all of your existing decks. On the very first turn, you can find the most powerful weapon in the game and kind of blow through everything, mow down everything. Or you can spend the entire game just getting completely beat down with curses and wounds and all kinds. You never know what's going to happen in the game, but it's always fun. Even when I'm losing the game, I'm still having fun with this game. The scenarios are mostly all interesting. They have good scripted elements, and combined with all of those random elements, just create for this sense of adventure where anything and everything can happen. And the same as my number 2, of course, unfortunately, the game is completely out of print, super expensive. Especially the expansions are crazy, crazy expensive. I know that they've been, promising to bring this game back to Kickstarter. I really hope they do. People ask me about this all the time. When is it coming to Kickstarter? When is it coming? I hope it comes soon, man. I know I did not like Secrets of the Lost Station at all, and the designers were pretty bummed out that I didn't like it. But they don't even need to do anything. Just bring Secrets of the Lost Tomb. Just bring it to Kickstarter in like a 3rd edition. Don't touch it. Don't change anything. Keep it the mess. Keep it audacious. Keep it wild. Keep it unpredictable. And just maybe add an expansion or 2. And that's all I would ask. So yeah, so that was the top 10, guys, of the top 50. We have in order Dungeon Quest, Talisman, Shadows of Brimstone, Escape the Dark Castle, Explore It, Machina Arcana, Sleeping Gods, Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, Warhammer Quest 1995, and Secrets of the Lost Tomb. All right, so there it is. The top 50 games of all time. I guess we can stop doing the dungeon dive now. All right, that's it. I'm really hoping that, there's always going to be new games to play and new games to add to the list. And who knows, if I were to do this same ranking system using the Pub Meeple today, I'm sure a lot of those games would be in different order. So take this top 50 with a grain of salt. This is it captured in this singular moment in time. These are my 50 favorite games. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this series. I hope you enjoyed the video. And let's try to make the Dungeon Dive a full-time thing, add all kinds of excitement and fun together. So talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.